Here we go. This is a 2002 Ford Mustang GT, and in this video I'm going to show you how to replace the entire clutch assembly for the air conditioning compressor. If I can get my hand down there and on the clutch plate, you'll be able to see that plate is wiggling all over the place. The rubber bushings are completely disintegrated. The bearing is shot. Maybe the coil is still good, but probably not. So I'll just replace the entire AC clutch assembly. Now, in order to replace the AC clutch, the first step is to remove the serpentine belt. So it's a good idea if you look at the routing, and it's pretty obvious, the way it's got to go, but it doesn't hurt to look at it, maybe even take a picture of it so you know the way it's routed. That way when you go to put it back on, you route it properly. In order to remove the serpentine belt, all you have to do is take a 3/8 socket, a ratchet take a 3/8 ratchet, and just put the square drive of the ratchet right in this socket here on the idler. It's a spring-loaded idler, and then just turn it back to release the tension, and then you can remove the belt. It's that simple. Okay, that's it. Now you don't necessarily have to remove the belt entirely, but it's an opportunity now to check all your pulleys, make sure that all your bearings are good. So I'm going to kind of take the belt out most of the way, or even all the way. Screw it, I'll just take the belt off. The belt comes off easily enough. Here it is. The belt is off. The belt's removed. So, I want one other thing too, is as far as the condition of your belt, serpentine belt, if you got cracks in the belt, this belt's in pretty good shape. But a crack like that, right there, you can see that crack maybe? Doesn't matter. It could be cracked all the way in that way. Horizontal cracks don't matter. Longitudinal cracks that go in the direction of the belt, that would be a problem. And if you're missing any pieces of the belt, like any of these, and you could be missing up to a 1/2 inch of one piece, as long as it's not adjacent to another one. So, but you just look along the belt, and everything's good on this belt. So this is a good belt. Does not need to be replaced. They last a really long time, serpentine belts. So, now I can check all the pulleys. That idler pulley's spinning nice. That one's spinning nice. And that idler pulley's spinning nice. So I got 3 idlers, and they're all spinning nicely. The AC pulley is not spinning nice. That has a bad bearing. The water pump is spinning nice. Obviously, I'm not going to check the damper pulley because that's the engine. But let's check the over here is the power steering pump pulley, and that's spinning nicely too. So no playing it. Everything's good there. So all my pulleys, and I can check the alternator. The bearings on the alternator are good. So everything's good in that regard, except for what I'm replacing, the air conditioning pulley. Maybe I can get a better angle on that if I put the camera under the car. Let's see. Yeah, that gives you a better view. The next step is to remove the clutch disc, and that's held down by a single bolt that takes an 8mm socket. Ford has a special tool to keep the clutch plate from rotating when you're unscrewing the bolt, but that's a bit ridiculous because the bolt's only on there with 10 foot-pounds. All you really need to do is place a screwdriver between 2 of the bushing retainers. Hopefully it'll come off easy enough. And yeah, there it goes, broke free. Okay. So, like I said, it's only 10 foot-pounds. Okay, that's that. And then pull off your hub assembly. Now mine comes off really easy, sliding right off. The through hole has an 8mm by 1.25 pitch thread. So if the hub was tight on the shaft, you could thread a bolt in there and easily extract the hub. Of course you need a wrench. I don't need a wrench because mine isn't tight. And there you go. The clutch plate and hub is removed. And now I can show you better just how bad that clutch pulley bearing is. You can see that this pulley is pretty loose. Hopefully the inner race has not spun. That's all I can do. Look at all that play I got in the pulley. If the inner race has spun, then I'll have to replace the whole compressor. I'm going to hope that that didn't happen. It doesn't look like it has, but who knows? I won't know until I remove the pulley. So let me get a pair of circle pliers and soon we'll find out. Circle pliers, as you see when I squeeze together they go apart. You could do it with a pair of needle nose, except it'd be more of a pain. You know, first of all, you'd have that needle nose that had small enough tips. You might have to grind them down the ends so they fit in the circlet. And then you would have to use two hands because you have to spread it apart. But now I'm doing this blind. I gotta find the circlet. You may notice that I switched out the jaws on these snap ring pliers from straight to offset to make it a little more ergonomic in this position. But I'm still having a really hard time finding the holes. Since I'm doing it from above, I can't see what I'm doing. I can only do it by feel. I'd probably have an easier time if I did it from below, but then I'd block the camera. I'm not going to lie, finding the holes from this position is a real pain in the ass, so I'll put it on fast forward to spare you the misery. Okay, got the circlip out. That was a real pain. Now, I can now take the pulley off. Hopefully I can take the pulley off. Yes. Oops, I dropped it right on the camera. Just on the tripod though. Okay. Let's get the camera realigned. Okay. Now you can see that now that's the coil. That's still on there. We have to remove the coil. And you can see the connector for the coil, I think. Yeah. It's right down there on the bottom. And that's important to take note where that connector is. So the connector is at this lower angle right here. I don't know if I can get my hand in there. I may have to remove that from under the car. It's just a pain to get to it from above. Okay, but it's easy to get to it from below because I can see it right there. And it's just got one little retainer on there. Pull back on that and pull it out. And that's it. Now you see it's coming out where the label is. There are 4 possible positions for it. The position it's in lines up with the with this white label. So now we got to take this coil out. That's it. Take that wire off. The coil is just pressed on. So we want to take that off with a wheel puller. They have a special tool for this, but I'm just going to use a 3-jaw wheel puller. That ought to work. And let me get that. Okay, I got a wheel puller, but it won't work because there's not enough clearance for the drive screw. If a wheel puller was my only option, I would cut down the drive screw or replace it with a shorter one. Additionally, I would have to come up with some sort of spacer so I only bear against the tube of the compressor housing and not the shaft. But that's all a bit of a hassle. Fortunately, there are other options. Since it's not a super tight press fit, the most expedient option will be to pry it off with a pry bar. There we go, it's moving. It's definitely moving, but well, there it goes. Okay. Let's try not to drop it on the camera again. Okay, that's off. So that's another way of getting it off. If you can't get a wheel puller in there, which I wasn't able to do. Now, I don't know if I like how that surface looks there. That's part of the bearing. All right, the camera's, I'm losing light here. This was on there. This was just sitting like that. That was the shield for the bearing. So now I'm just going to clean this area off. I'll just squirt it down with some brake cleaner. Okay. And then thoroughly wipe it down with a rag. I'm going to squirt a little brake cleaning fluid in the threaded hole here because I plan on using Loctite on the threads. Okay. All right, clean that up a bit. And now that should all be good. I'm going to put the pulley on first. That's a test fit. Make sure I feel how this shaft feels. If it's loose on the shaft, we got a problem. If it feels good on there, then I will put the new coil on. As you can see, this whole coil is fried. It definitely overheated. The insulation is broken down, and it's probably shorted, and more than likely blew a fuse. Here is the new pulley. Slide it on there. Doesn't feel bad. It's got no, you know, it's fine. It's good. So that's not a problem. Okay. Happy with that. So now we're going to get the coil and put the coil on. Here's the new coil, and it just gets installed with a press fit onto the boss of the compressor body. Of course, before you press it on, you need to make sure it's in a proper clock position. And again, Ford has a special tool, which is basically a modified 2-jaw wheel puller that hooks onto the compressor body and has a special adapter that fits the coil that allows you to press the coil onto the boss of the compressor body squarely. Needless to say, I don't have that tool. I'm not going to waste my time modifying a 2-jaw wheel puller for this particular application. But I do have a hammer, and that will do the job just as well. It just requires a bit more skill to do it without damaging the coil or the compressor. Okay, the coil is now installed and fully seated against the boss of the shoulder of the AC compressor. Unfortunately, I forgot to turn the camera on when I installed it. But fortunately, I have a spare AC compressor, so I can take you into the garage and show you how it's done. Like I said earlier, the clock position is important. And basically, you only have four clock positions you can install. As you can see, the connector has to go in one of these cutouts, or these indentations here on the AC compressor. And obviously the one where the wiring harness connector lines up with is the one you need to go to. And that happens to be the one right here. So you locate it like that, get it started, just, you know, it kind of starts on there, and then just take a hammer and actually go hit the outer portion of the body. Just tap around. Alternating. Just a light tap. And actually, when you're in the car, I don't think you have that much room. I know you don't, because I just did it. So you're going to have to use, if you have a maul like this, you're going to have to use the side of it, like that. But that's all the impact you need. You don't need much swing. See that? That's all the swing you need. Doesn't take much. That should be all the way seated. And the way you know it's seated, you might have to use a mirror when it's in the car. But first of all, you'll hear it. You'll hear the sound that it's solid. It's not, you can hear that. And also, you look here. Right there, you see right here? We're right against it. Look at this one here. Right against, there's no gap right here. And right here. No gap right here. That's how you know you're fully seated. And then, next step will be to install the pulley. Now I'm back into the car, and before I actually install the pulley, I'll give it a trial fit. Let's see. We're good. Now, I put the circlip back on, the new circlip on. Now the circlip itself is kind of like a bevel spring because it's not flat. It has a definite curve to it, and you want to put the concave side of the curve towards the bearing. And that will help to keep the inner race from spinning on the axle tube. I just got to get my snap ring pliers. Putting the circlip on is a lot easier than taking it off because I can see everything nice now. Before with all that grease in there, I couldn't see where it was. And then verify the circlip is fully seated in its groove. You should use a pick to push on it to make sure it's fully seated in its groove. And it's engaged. So, we're all good there. The next step is to install the clutch disc, which is actually the clutch disc and hub combined. And in this case, it seems to be a bit of a tight fit on the splines. Hopefully it fits. Yeah, it's tight. I guess because it's new. All right. So before you put this on, you want to put at least one shim in it because there has to be an air gap between this plate and the pulley. And the air gap should be, I think it's between 14 thousandths and 30 thousandths. So you need a fail gauge. And it's just hit or miss. It comes with 3 or 4 little washers. Where's that hardware bag? I've got a hardware bag somewhere. Here it is. Okay, here you can see the washer shim. And you're better off sliding it over the bolt rather than just dropping it into the bore. That way it won't go sideways. Also, I can't slide the hub on the shaft by hand because the splines are tight. So I'm using a longer bolt with the same threads as the actual bolt to draw it down on the shaft. And once I have it drawn down far enough, I'll replace the long bolt with the actual bolt and tighten it all the way. Make sure I'm on the splines properly. When I want to try forcing it down, it's not lined up with the splines. I think we're good. And hopefully, I won't have to take this off again and throw another shim in. But if I do, I do. I'm going to do it from above with this, hold it with the screwdriver. Let's see if we're there. I think we're bottomed out with this bolt. So remove this bolt. I'm going to put the correct bolt in there. Okay. Gap is getting tighter. It's not tight enough yet. And it doesn't matter. The bolt has to be able to be torqued down to 10 foot-pounds. So it's not like you can just stop when you're at the right gap. It has to be shimmed to the right gap. The hub is bottomed out, and I do have a gap. Now I got to check that with a feeler gauge. Okay, so I have a feeler gauge, 14 thousandths. Whether you can see it or not, it is. Now, see if it fits in there. And it doesn't. Okay, we seem to have no gap. All right, so I got to pull this off again and add another shim. Maybe I'll add 2 shims because we got no gap. All right, I got no gap, but I did put the thinnest shim washer in there. So if you think about it, it's really not that big a surprise. This time around, I'm going to use the thickest shim washer, and I've taken a measurement of it. Here it is. Let me see if I can get that to focus. There you go. It measures 64 thousandths of an inch. So after I install it with this washer and measure the air gap, if the air gap is too big, let's say 10 thousandths over, then I know I need to replace it with a shim washer that is 10 thousandths of an inch thinner. In this case, 54 thousandths of an inch. Or if the air gap is too small, let's say 4 thousandths under, then I know I have to add an additional shim washer, 4 thousandths of an inch thick. So at most I only have to do it twice, or maybe I'll even get lucky and this thick washer will put it right in range and I'll just have to do it once. So I have to remove the bolt and take off the hub, which is a bit of a hassle. Because the splines are tight, I need to extract it with this 8mm 1.25 pitch bolt threaded into the through hole. Now I can remove the hub and swap out the shim washer. Alright, so I removed the thin shim washer and I replaced it with the thick shim washer that measures 65 thousandths of an inch. Alright, I gotta make sure the splines are lined up, and it's basically the same process as it was the first time I installed it. Since the splines are still tight, I have to first draw it down on the shaft with the longer bolt. Then remove the long bolt, replace it with the correct bolt, and tighten it all the way. And that's why I have it on fast forward, because it's the same thing all over again. Alright, it feels like it bottomed out. And that was with the thickest washer. Alright, I'm going to torque it down to about 10 foot-pounds. This is just for testing. And now I'll check it with the feeler gauge to see what we got. 14 fits. So it's kind of loose here, but I think up tight it gets tighter up top. But it fits up top too. Up top it's about exactly 14. Down below it's more than 14. Because it's loose up below. But one of the components of this clutch plate is a flex plate, and that's probably not perfectly even, and it has give to it. What I don't like is the gap seems to be at the lowest end of its specified range. Let me see if I can get a 16 thousandths feeler gauge to fit up here. Yeah, 16 goes in. Good. How about 18? I'll go in steps of 2 till I can't fit a leaf in there. Okay, up top I cannot fit 18 thousandths in there. Let's see if I can get 18 thousandths to fit below. Yeah, 18 thousandths does fit below. And it even fits above too if you start from below and slide it up there. So that's no doubt
an issue with the flex plate. Again, it's not perfectly even and it has give to it.
But 18 thousandths fits all around. So it's about 18 thousandths. I'm satisfied. What I'm going to do is now I'm going to remove this bolt, put some Loctite on it, and tighten it down to 10 foot-pounds, and then recheck my gap. Put some Loctite on the bolt.
After applying Loctite, put it back in there.
Now I want to torque it down to 12 foot-pounds instead of 10, and that's because I don't really know how. I'm not bothering to check the accuracy of my torque wrench right now. It's a Harbor Freight Pittsburgh torque wrench, so I figure it's plus or minus 2 foot-pounds, and it's at the low end of its scale too. On a 3/8 torque wrench, starts at 5 foot-pounds. Worst case scenario, I'll be tightening it to 14 foot-pounds, which that size bolt can take. It'll either be at exactly 10 foot-pounds or 14 foot-pounds if it's plus or minus 2, because I have it set for 12. Just tighten it till it clicks. There it goes. That's all 12 foot-pounds is. There's the click. Okay. So that's done. I don't even gotta bother measuring again, but I will. Yeah, we're still good. All right, we're good. See, that's the 17 feeler gauge. So it's holding in there. 17 thousandths. So no problems.
I think at some point I plugged this connector in when I was off camera. Not that you missed much, but I'm going to pull it out again anyway because I want to add some silicone dielectric to it. The reason I'm adding dielectric is because this connector is down low and probably gets splashed with water a lot. And dielectric does a pretty good job at increasing a connector's ability to resist water.
That's a lot of silicone. Doesn't need that much. Suck it back in the tube. Take a popsicle stick and spread that silicone on here evenly, or at least more evenly than it was. Wipe the excess off that accrued on the popsicle stick. And put that connector back in. There you go. That's that. Now we're good. Pulley runs nicely. There is no rubbing and no noise from the bearing. So we'll be good. Pull this crap out from under the car. All that's left to do now is to put the Serpentine belt back on. And then start up the car, see if it works, see if the AC works again. Now, unfortunately, can't really get the camera. Gotta get more pulleys involved. Maybe you can see more of the pulleys. There you go. So I'm gonna put the Serpentine belt on. That's the best thing I can give you, so you can see how the Serpentine belt routes from underneath.
In order to route a Serpentine belt on any car, you don't need a diagram or have committed it to memory. Of course, if you had either one of those two, it would make it even easier because you wouldn't even have to think. But if you have a modicum of mechanical aptitude and understanding, then it's just a matter of trial and error. And it will be quite obvious when you routed it properly, because there is only one way the belt will be under the proper tension and wrapped around the pulleys properly, period. It may take you a few tries, but once you have it routed properly, you'll recognize it. Okay, we're good. Serpentine belt's on and routed properly. Just need to focus the camera better on the AC clutch, start up the car, and check that the AC clutch is operating properly. The pulley is running smoothly and quietly. Now I'll turn on the AC and see if the clutch engages. The radiator fan kicked in when I turned on the AC, but the clutch didn't engage, which means, more than likely, the fuse for the electromagnetic coil on the AC compressor is blown. And if you look at this old coil, it's obviously shorted, so it's almost a guarantee that it blew a fuse. So all I have to do is locate the blown fuse for the coil, replace it, and everything should be good.
Okay, I looked it up in the shop manual. The fuse for the coil is located in this fuse box here, the engine compartment, and I think they said it was fuse number 24, but don't quote me on it. But physically, from the diagram, it's right here. So I'm going to pull that fuse, see if it's blown. And clear as day. Don't need a meter for that. You can see that fuse is completely blown. Unfortunately, I don't have a 20 amp fuse, but I do have a 15 amp, and that's okay because it's of a lower value. So no, it's not going to cause any problems other than the fuse itself will just blow if it can't handle the amperage. So there we go. I'm replacing a 20 amp with a 15 amp, so there's no worries as far as electrically. It just might not work. It might blow instantly. Well, let's see. Maybe at least it'll kick on for a second before it blows. And I'll have to get a 20 amp fuse. And I don't think there's any other issues because I see the cause of, I see why that fuse blew. So let's go back under the car here. Get the camera situated. Okay, you can see the pulley, you see the clutch, and now I'll start the car up again. And turn on the AC.
Okay, the AC clutch is working. It's cycling, turning on and off like it's supposed to. Even the 15 amp fuse seems to be holding up. So, I'm all done. The car is repaired.